Do you want to go to war, Malaki? I'm for real. AA Ron. Where is AA Ron right now?
AA Ron right here. Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, on Thursday this week, Scientology got annihilated in the debate for the Los Angeles mayor race. I don't even want to give it too much of an intro. I want to jump right into it, but real quick, Karen Bass, Rick Caruso are both running against each other to be mayor of Los Angeles. 10 years ago, Karen Bass spoke at a Scientology event. There's a video of the event. Rick Caruso has taken the video and turned it into a negative campaign ad. This whole thing even came up in the Danny Masterson criminal trial. Danny Masterson's attorney actually said in open court, this is a direct quote, "At a time when the left and the right, red and blue, Republicans and Democrats agree on basically nothing, the one thing that they apparently agree upon is that Scientology is an evil criminal organization." That's from Danny Masterson's own attorney. And the judge corrected him and says, actually, Caruso and Bass are both running as Democrats. Totally wasn't the point, but that's hilarious. And then a bit later on, Danny's attorney, Philip Cohen, he made reference to some Gallup polls. It turns out Scientology nevertheless went out as the most notorious or nefarious of religions. And then he continues to comment on Karen Bass and Rick Caruso, and he goes, they happen to be mayoral candidates that believe the more they can attach the other side to Scientology and distance themselves from Scientology gives them a better chance of getting elected with the voting public of Los Angeles. So that is the context for what I'm about to show you. Here is what happened at the debate. Let's watch.
Congresswoman Bass, this one is for you. And it is about Scientology. Your opponent introduced that by virtue of ubiquitous commercials about it. But it's a fair thing to ask, and here's what I'm interested in. About 10 years ago, for people who don't know, you delivered a speech because the Church of Scientology was opening, and correct me if I'm wrong, its Los Angeles city headquarters, its new headquarters. And in part, you said, and I'm quoting you now, I know your goal, meaning Scientology, and your commitment is truly to make a difference. Recently, when asked about that, you said that you were unaware of how controversial, I'm paraphrasing you now, but you were unaware of how controversial the Church of Scientology has been, and had you known it at the time you now say, you would not have given that speech. So my question to you is, considering that Scientology has been in the news for decades and decades before you made that speech, is it really credible? Are you asking voters to believe that 10 years ago you were totally unaware?
No, I am not. I certainly knew of some of Scientology's abuses. I didn't know the depth of them. I learned it later. Let me just say that I am a lifelong Baptist. I've never been affiliated with the Scientology religion. I was there for ribbon cutting along with a number of elected officials. And frankly, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have gone.
And why?
Because as I have learned the depth of their abuses and have talked to a lot of people that were affiliated with Scientology who have broken away from Scientology. That's why.
You say, though, that you were aware of some things. So
Yes.
why speak? I mean, at the end of the day, you can control your own schedule.
Absolutely, I can. And as I said, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it.
But then why?
Then why?
Yeah.
Because it was a ribbon cutting that a lot of other elected officials were attending, and I attended it as well.
Is the kind of research you did before doing that speech 10 years ago indicative of the kind of research you might do as mayor?
No, absolutely not. I would do much deeper research and would have much more equipment to do that with, much larger staff.
Mr. Caruso, the purpose of this ad was what? Because some people can come away and say, well, that was kind of a cheap shot.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
This is all about either one of us wanting to have one of the most important jobs in the United States, being the mayor of this city and being in charge of 4 million people. It's about leadership, it's about integrity, it's about credibility, it's about character, it's about judgment. And so here we go with the judgment. Not only did she give the speech, but then up until 2019 gave congressional proclamations heaping praise on Scientology, right? We've got the congressional record. It didn't stop at the speech, right, Karen?
I have no idea what he's talking
I will.
about.
I will.
I have
Caruso, your
absolutely
time is
no
up,
idea
but
what he's talking
respond. Let's give you
I have
30 seconds.
absolutely no idea what he's talking about, but what I do know is that Rick Caruso is running a desperate campaign with a Republican strategy to consistently attack me because he's not doing well in the polls. He spent over $60 million trying to convince voters that I am somebody I'm not. The reality is that Angelenos know who I am. I have been fighting on behalf of Angelenos my entire life. I have no idea what he was
All
talking
right, we're going to leave this one.
I just want to finish
quickly.
We will give you the list of congressional proclamations that she issued up until 2019 on Scientology. So you'll have it, and you can
Show them to me.
I will. We'll give you a copy.
Wow, this is amazing. So a couple of the reasons I think this is absolutely amazing is that the Church of Scientology would have you believe that it has deep and meaningful connections and relationships with the powers that be in City Hall in Los Angeles. To see Scientology come up in such an incredibly negative way in this mayoral race, and to see each of the candidates essentially competing for who can distance themselves the most from Scientology, this is about the most embarrassing thing that could happen to David Miscavige. I mean, even more embarrassing than the Danny Masterson trial. Because at least Miscavige can chalk up most of what happens in the trial to Scientologists behaving badly. Miscavige cannot explain this away. Miscavige cannot explain away how in order to win the most coveted political seat in Los Angeles, you have to basically compete to take the biggest dump on Scientology. This is just so bad for Scientology's PR, and I mean mostly internally. Because obviously the cause and effect relationship here is what we're seeing play out in the mayoral race is because Scientology has such bad PR. But the fact that it is playing out is creating bad PR within the world of Scientology. Within the world of Scientology. Do not underestimate how much propaganda flows, gets pumped by Miscavige into the bubble of Scientology. How much propaganda gets fed to all Scientologists about how Scientology is basically slowly taking over the world, or not so slowly taking over the world. And not to, be redundant here, but the Scientologists who live in Los Angeles, I guarantee you, are shocked that these candidates are competing to distance themselves from Scientology the furthest. The other reason this is a huge surprise to me is that, particularly on the, in the legislative world and in the political world, people are very hesitant to criticize Scientology because it has this recognition from the IRS. And how do you justify criticizing Scientology without criticizing other religions, the mainstream religions? Politicians are terrified of being called a religious bigot, and Scientology will jump all over you and try to label you as a bigot for doing such things. What shocked me here isn't to see candidates trying to weaponize Scientology against each other, but that the moderators of the debate jumped in. Blew my mind. I mean, he literally said to her basically, but even given what you did know, even if you didn't know all of it, even given what you did know, how could you have made that decision? I think that's not exactly the words that he used, but it was along those lines of why would you have ever chosen to speak at a Scientology event? That is such a reflection of how horrible Scientology's PR is amongst the political class, the political class in Los Angeles. And the last thing I'll comment on here is that it's about time that the politicians in Clearwater showed as much balls and guts and courage on the subject of Scientology as is currently being demonstrated in Los Angeles. Because here in Clearwater, we still have a bunch of castrated cowards on the city council, and I use those terms referring to both the men and the women on the city council. The only exception is Mark Bunker. Every single other person on the council is absolutely terrified to speak critically about Scientology. Oh, they're so willing to do so privately behind closed doors to their friends and their family, but when they get up there on the council, it's all of a sudden Scientology is just like any other religion, and he who is without sin cast the first stone, and all that sort of bullshit nonsense. So if you live in Clearwater and you're watching this video, do me a favor. Email this video into the city council members. You can look up their email addresses on the city website. I might even publish them up here in the video. Perhaps maybe they'll start getting a clue if they receive a couple thousand emails with a link to a video showing them what's going on in Los Angeles. The mayor has already announced he will not be running for re-election. It would be really nice if the next mayor of Clearwater was someone who was willing to call Scientology an evil criminal organization, because that's exactly what it is, and we need to stop pretending otherwise. All right, everyone, that's all I've got on this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of you who watched until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.